Today we're going to talk about how traditional boxing commentators are pompous, self-sabotaging wankers. This is the most important video I'm ever going to make about boxing, so I implore you to hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel for more content. So yeah, strap in and sit down, because in the words of the little Jamaican head from Harry Potter, it's gonna be a bumpy ride. Over the past 5 years, YouTube boxing has blown up, and the likes of Jake Paul and KSI are among the most talked about people in the sport. I think most reasonable boxing fans are supportive of influencers boxing each other. The sport is for everyone at the end of the day, so if a couple of YouTubers decide to lace up some gloves and have a scrap in front of millions around the world, that's a fine thing. They're maximizing their monetary value and audience by fighting. It's not taking away from regular boxing, and everyone is having a good time with it. Well, I've seen numerous pundits and boxing media companies talk shit about YouTube boxing, and it's starting to annoy me. During the Jake Paul Tommy Fury build-up, they had no issue with getting interviews from YouTubers and soaking in all of those new views and subscribers on Fight Week, but when the event was over, they come on and say it's tragic for boxing like they weren't just milking it for clicks a couple of days prior. The most common argument they make is that it's not high-level boxing, and yeah, no shit. Jake Paul and all these YouTubers talk a big game, and that's part of the reason why these fights are compelling. These guys are entertainers, and boxing prospects need to learn how to grow their audience and personal platform. Traditional boxing pundits always bitch about Jake Paul claiming he can beat Canelo, but the reason why he says that in the first place is because of you clowns reporting on it and giving it attention. It's all bait. They also always like to talk about how YouTube boxing fans are delusional and believe that Jake Paul or KSI can beat a Canelo or another world-class boxer. Trust me when I say that nobody in the influencer boxing community believes this, and you're painting a bad light on YouTube boxing fans with no basis in reality. Talksport and other pretentious boxing pundits must think that those Muhammad Ali, Jake Paul copypasters are legit or something. YouTube boxing fans don't think that Jake Paul should be ranked by the WBC, or that he can win a world or regional title. The traditional boxing media that perpetuate this narrative are lying to you. Anyway, these YouTubers are actually interesting to watch, and people gravitate towards them. Kids are more inspired by YouTubers putting on gloves than actual pro boxers. And that's not only because they already have a dedicated fanbase who support them, but because they're fucking YouTubers and not freak athletes. YouTubers like Anisom Gibb didn't work out until he was 21 and was just a dork playing FIFA in his bedroom. Now he's headlining boxing shows, and in terms of fitness, has completely turned his life around. To the average kid that plays video games, maybe is a bit chubby and can't relate to an Anthony Joshua who's like an athletic specimen, or a Floyd Mayweather who has been boxing his entire life, they will look at YouTubers like Gibb or KSI and be like, oh wow, I can actually pursue this. I can take up boxing after all. Younger audiences are seeing YouTubers start their boxing journeys and watching their very first fights, and there's something special in that. These fans will go into boxing gyms as a result. We don't get to see pro boxers until they're megastars and well into their career. On the other hand, we can see YouTubers real-time growth as fighters from fight to fight. Younger people can identify with that way more than Canelo, who had 30 fights by the time he was 20. So YouTubers do have a place in this sport. These journalists and commentators dismiss that, however, and blame YouTubers for ruining the sport. They believe that real, talented prospects deserve the money and fame and not the YouTubers. I agree that prospects deserve more recognition, but at the end of the day, it's up to the boxers to establish a social media presence, and up to the promoters to push them as well. These YouTubers are very well paid, but they're providing the entertainment factor and box office numbers. I mean, there are a ton of pro boxers that put a fucking glass eye to sleep when they talk. Instead of slating YouTubers, why don't you learn from them and actually make your presence known by hyping up the crowd, calling people out, etc. If I hear another pro boxer say, I can beat my opponent every day and twice on Sunday, I'm gonna have a fucking stroke. That being said, promoters should invest in their fighters and present their stories to the masses. The fact that Misfits Boxing took a random kid from Mexico and made him into a bigger megastar than a lot of boxing world champions, changing his entire life in the process, proves without a shadow of a doubt that there's something wrong with traditional boxing. Speaking of which, I've heard pundits complain about Misfits taking the piss out of boxing with the tag team matches and the mystery opponent gimmick. However, KSI and Mams have specifically said that they're trying to separate it from the traditional boxing offerings on DAZN. That's why it's called the X Series. It's an entirely new thing that appeals to a different audience. Pundits that are snarky and elitist about influencer boxing are literally shooting themselves and the sport in the foot, and turning away younger kids from actual pro boxing. I'm not saying that these shows need to support YouTube boxing. I mean, I watch and like plenty of guys that aren't fans of it. The Fight Disciples, Morning Combat, etc. I love their perspectives on combat sports. I like their content, and YouTube boxing isn't for them. I have no issue with that, and I also don't mind if they criticize the scene or label it white collar boxing or make jokes. However, it's the total dismissal and elitism from certain journalists that I can't stand.
I go there open-minded and I enjoy it. It's entertainment. I go, do you know what? When I left
Simple-minded,
there,
not open-minded.
Oh, shut the fuck up, cunt. Honestly, if these guys can just meet influencer boxing fans halfway and go, it's not my thing, but this is good for the sport, without any passive-aggressive pussy remarks, then everyone wins. Hardcore boxing fans and commentators are actively pushing away the younger demographic. I bet you that the boxers who support KSI and Jake Paul, for instance, will gain new fans. Younger audiences will be like, oh yeah, this Devin Haney guy, he's alright, I've seen him at the Jake Paul Tommy Fury event, I'll go watch his next fight. The truth is that influencer boxing is not going away anytime fucking soon. More YouTubers are gonna get involved, and this is a good thing for the sport. Jake Paul fighting Tommy Fury was fantastic because it was a real challenge and a 50-50 fight. He has raised the level of opposition every single time he fought, but pundits want to criticize him, and not Terence Crawford for fighting another fucking mandatory instead of Errol Spence? Get the fuck out of here, man. I swear, man, traditional boxing is its own worst enemy.